Frederick, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, man. Thanks. Happy to be here.
How's it going, my dude?
It's good. Recently got back from holiday, so feeling good, feeling chilled out, relaxed, and ready to rock again.
Isn't it weird that that these days being back from holiday is a strange sentence? Like being anywhere has been a strange sentence for a little while. It's been a crazy time.
Yeah, no, it's been pretty nuts, isn't it? But I mean, I've just worked pretty much all year round, and even last year as well. Didn't really go anywhere, but just work nonstop because basically, you're stuck at home, got nothing else to do, and but it's intense because if you sort of work by yourself, sometimes you don't know when to stop, and you just carry on and on and on, and don't stop taking weekends or anything, and then you realize you're under so much pressure and so much stress all the time, and you've done nothing but work. Even you think that as a musician, music work can be fun and stuff, but there's so much other business related stuff that you're doing, which is not necessarily got anything to do with the music. And if you just basically do that nonstop, and it can be quite taxing actually. So it's been good to take a holiday and to be able to take a holiday, especially after all the shit that's been going on. So yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, we'll get into like the last 2 years, the last year and a half for you guys as well, especially with the new album and all that stuff. But I wanted I try to introduce the guest before we start the show. I try to say what you do, what band you're in, and stuff like that. But in your own words, I would love it if you would just introduce yourself to the tribe and let them know who you are and what you got going on as well.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'm Frederick Thunder, the guitarist of Neonfly, and Neonfly is a band from the UK. We've been going on for about 10 years now. Actually, our first album, Outshine in the Sun, came out in September 2011. So right now is in fact the anniversary, the 10-year anniversary. I just realized this now as I'm talking to you. It didn't cross my mind before. But yeah, maybe I should be celebrating. Should be putting a little hat on or something. So it's been 10 years. We got 3 albums out. The latest one came out this year in June. And yeah, we've been the past 10 years. We've sort of toured a lot around Europe with different bands and stuff, and obviously with the pandemic and stuff, we've been at home like everyone else for the past 2 years. But really looking forward to getting back on the road as soon as possible to promote this album, which we feel is our strongest one to date. So yeah,
one of the things I really liked when I was looking into the band and into your guys' history in general is that you guys all came from the same music school. Minus one person, but you guys all went to the same music school together and then started this band. Tell me a little bit about that. I didn't get too into the details from looking back, but I know that you guys all went to a music school together. Yeah.
Well, originally the original lineup of the band is we went to the same music school here in London. Basically, the first singer of Neonfly, which was only with us for like about a year or year and a half, and that was before we recorded our first album. But yeah, he was in the same music school, and the bass player Paul, who's still with us today, was also with then the original guitarist Patrick Harrington. He was also in the same school. And our drummer Boris Legal, who is now the drummer of Betraying the Martyrs, he also studied with us. So in fact, and even like we had a tech guy called Nick who was also studying with us and then came on the road with us and ended up doing our lights on a couple of tours. And then he sort of went into the business side of things. So he ended up working for Nuclear Blast for a couple of years and other things. But yeah, we were all from the same music school. In London, it was called Tech Music Schools. I think now it has a different name and it's been bought out by another school. So I'm not too sure anymore. But it's been a while. But then a couple of members changed. So the only one the only ones who studied at that school who are still in the band are myself and the bass player Paul.
Yeah, but the initial incarnation of the band had that. Let's take things a little back, because I and everybody in the chat and everybody that's heard this podcast before knows this. I'm very curious about how people kind of find their path when it comes to being in any creative sphere in general. And having gone to school for music kind of showcases that at least earlier in life you knew exactly kind of where you wanted to be. Take me back to the very beginning. How did Frederick fall in love with music? What was the first thing that touched your heart musically?
Well, if we're talking about metal, I think that's really what really sort of made it changed my life. At some point when I was a teenager, I discovered Iron Maiden, and that's what made me want to play the guitar in the first place, so yeah, I was just going to school, listening to Iron Maiden. I was the only kid at school that even knew who Iron Maiden was, and the only reason why I got into them was because I was going to I was into rock in the late 90s, early 2000s, stuff that was on MTV, because MTV at the time still played music videos and stuff like that, and the bands that were
rest in peace MTV.
And the bands that were popular at the time, and I sort of had a few bands that I liked and stuff, but all the sort of classic metal was extremely unpopular at the end of the 90s and stuff, so it was not something that was even anywhere, let alone the music channels or stuff like that. But I like going to record shops to sort of look at the rock albums that I would listen to on the radio and stuff, and think about maybe buying one or two. And Iron Maiden had obviously released already so many albums and singles at that time that they were all over the store, and I loved the covers of those albums. So I would look at them and I'd be so intrigued by this band that I'd never heard before. I had no idea what they sounded like, and I would just look at those covers for hours. I was just so intrigued, and I sort of decided that I wanted to buy one of those albums just because. And it was Best of the Beast that they had released not so long ago, and with all the Eddies. It's got an album cover with all the Eddies together, and that really caught my attention. I really wanted that album, and I saved up for months before I could get it, and I finally bought it. I put it on, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was just magical, I mean, it didn't sound like any of the music that was, because at the time it was the heavy stuff was new metal and Korn and Limp Bizkit and stuff like that. So Iron Maiden sounded like a million miles away from that. It was completely different. There were guitar solos, all that stuff. That it was just a completely different sound. And as a teenager, hearing that for the first time, it's so impressive. I was like blown away, and it really corresponded to without knowing it, to the music that I wanted to hear. And yeah, I remember I listened to that album just like nonstop. I didn't listen to anything else like for a whole year. I just listened to that album. And then I started sort of, because of, the way that I sort of bought that album without having heard the band and without just based on the cover, I sort of went to the metal section of the record shop, and I started looking at album covers and the ones that sort of caught my eye. I sort of, with time, whenever I could save up some money, I decided to buy them, and most of the time without having heard the band. And so I got into Halloween like that. I got into Blind Guardian and Gamma Ray and bands like that, just trusting my gut, and basically just the music that just the album covers sort of guide me towards what I thought I was going to like. And yeah, I got it right most of the time. Rhapsody as well. Rhapsody is one of those bands that I discovered at the time, and a lot of melodic metal, a lot of power metal, and yeah. So at first I started playing guitar because I wanted to sort of learn how to play those guitar solos and all those parts that sounded complicated.
Did you have any affinity or history with music at all? Was it a musical household? Was there anyone that played an instrument in the family or anything like that? Or was it, I saw Eddie, I picked up Blind Guardian, and now I want to play guitar. Like it was a completely left of field kind of thing for you.
Yeah, it was that. I mean, there was in my family, nobody played an instrument or anything. You know, it wasn't. You know, my parents are not, you know, old rockers or anything like that. They weren't into that kind of music at all. You know, so yeah, no, it was a completely weird thing. I suppose, I was. Yeah, my parents at first sort of thought it was a bit weird, but then they sort of realized it was okay. So,
did you get any of that turn off that satanic music kind of vibe?
No, not really. No, but no, my parents were sort of very open. But yeah, I think that was sort of my thing that sort of came out of nowhere, and also because no other kids at school liked that kind of music either. It was weird to them as well. So it was basically weird to everyone, but I didn't care. I just really liked it. Yeah, so, you know, I was playing guitar and sort of met a couple of people that played instruments as well, and I more or less sort of forced them to play the songs that I wanted to play. So I sort of got them a little bit into metal, and we played, you know, a couple of things at school just for fun. It was just like, you know, like at when you finish school, you know, and there's like some kind of event and stuff, and you know, some bands from school start playing, and they're all really, really bad when we were really, really bad as well. But you think you're so cool because you're out there playing, and so I made them play Iron Maiden.
we need to discuss this though, because everyone has, it's either the most epic or the absolute worst thing in the world. Your first band name.
You know, I don't even think we had a name. I think it was just like so. You know, just done as a hobby that we didn't even care for having a name. It was just like, you know, we just got together to rehearse every now and then, and then we played that little show. It was just like 2 or 3 songs that we had to play for school. Yeah, we didn't even bother having a name. And I just assume it was really, really bad, because sort of looking back on it, it probably was, but I don't even have like a video or anything of it. So I can't even check. But it's probably better that way, because I think I'd probably be very scared if that resurfaced.
We went the opposite direction. We made a name, we made a poster. It was like a 3-song set list, almost like what you said. We were horrible. Made logos. I think we printed a T-shirt. Like we went the opposite direction of a humble first start, and it was a horrible. That's why I love asking people that question, because sometimes it's like, I mean, I know Julian's first band name was Headphones at Funerals. Horrible, horrible. Everybody had a horrible first band name. But yeah, so when you picked up the guitar, I want to play some Iron Maiden licks. I want to, you know, play a couple of Iron Maiden covers with my friends at school. When did that turn into, hey, I'm kind of, this is what I want to do? Like, when did it turn in from like, oh, I play guitar as a kid to, I kind of want to, was it from the beginning, or did it gradually kind of grow on you?
No, it gradually grew on me. At first, I was just doing it as a hobby, just for fun. I had absolutely no intention of having a music career. I knew that I liked music a lot, though. Music was really important to me, and I loved listening to it. And you know, I was really into it. But I didn't think it was realistic for me to sort of become a musician. I suppose, you know, you sort of don't see yourself doing that somehow. And so it sort of became gradual. And, you know, suddenly I started telling myself, well, but what if I did actually, you know, and suddenly, you know, it sort of also sort of realizing that I was, you know, good enough at it as well. Because at first you don't think you're good enough. And then you realize, well, actually, maybe I'm not that bad, you know, and then I started writing some music just for fun, and I sort of realized that it just wasn't half bad, you know, and I enjoyed doing it. And yeah, I don't know, little by little, I guess it was gradual. When I was getting into Iron Maiden and sort of, you know, playing at school and stuff, I lived in Mexico, because I'm half Mexican and half French. And so I lived in Mexico. I went to a French school. And when I finished school, I moved back to France to go to university. And it was in France that I sort of started I wasn't too happy with university and stuff, and that's when I started sort of thinking, yeah, maybe I'd like to make music and stuff. And it sort of made sense to be in Europe to play that kind of music, because all the bands that I listened to at the time were European bands. I was really into melodic metal and power metal, which was a very European thing, very European sound. So being in France already, I felt much closer to the whole scene, and I guess that sort of made it a bit more real for me that maybe I could try to do that. But again, France did not really feel like the best place to do that either. So that's when I started thinking about moving to London and actually starting my music career there. So that's basically how it happened. That's how I ended up here in London. Was I came specifically to start a band and stuff, and to because I felt like there was more the people were more open to it here in the UK than in France. I think that especially in those days in France, I'm talking about, the early 2000s, metal was really very sort of subdued in France. Hellfest wasn't a thing yet. I think Hellfest has helped sort of make metal more accepted in mainstream way, much more in France, because France was always a country which was a bit weird towards metal and towards any kind of alternative culture. But I think Hellfest definitely, I mean, the way it has grown, it really, really helped sort of put metal on the map, and sort of everyone became aware of it. And I think it's done a lot of good, but Hellfest was, I think, only starting out, or maybe hadn't even started when I lived in France. So it didn't really feel like a very welcoming place for a metal band. And that's why I felt like, I lived in Paris. So, I think I can take a 2-hour train, literally a 2-hour Eurostar train, and be in London and sort of, try living there and be in a place which seemed much more open to this kind of stuff, so that's how I ended up here.
So this is a subject that I love to dig into. You said half Mexican, half French. Moved to London to start the band and stuff. I love talking about like the third culture kid vibe and growing up as that person that's from everywhere but nowhere at the same time, because we have a lot of that in the Middle East, where I feel like this is home but it'll never be home, and then I move to another country and they're like, your accent's weird, where are you from? And it's I don't fit anywhere, but I have so many places that are in my bloodline. Growing up as that the third culture kid in Mexico, having French half French background, you speak French, you're growing up already listening to alternative music that people aren't necessarily aware of. What did that play a role in shaping the path to the music? Was there any link between feeling like, if you did feeling a little bit of from everywhere or a little bit of from nowhere, or is that something that you didn't actually face or go through in your younger years?
Yeah, no, I mean, there was, well, the thing is, you got to consider that wherever I lived when I was at school, I went to a French school, because French people love their education system. So they've put French schools in every country in the world, basically. And so my parents wanted me to follow a French education. So I always went to a French school. So all the people, because actually before I lived in Mexico, I also lived in Spain for a few years. And in Spain, I was also in a French school. And so all the kids that go to these schools are usually half French and half whatever country they're on. So in Mexico, like most people that were in that school were half French and half Mexican. So everybody had a similar background. So we were kind of in our own bubble in that sense, sort of like, growing up with a French education in Mexico. So within, the school and since everybody was sort of in the same situation, there was nothing strange about it. It was sort of normal. But yeah, outside of that, I suppose, people in Mexico would consider me more French than Mexican, and in France, people consider me more Mexican than French. So, but not in a negative way. It wasn't something that, it's more like a curiosity. It's more exotic to them, I suppose, in a way. So it's more interesting for them to sort of see you as a sort of person from far away or whatever. So it wasn't like a negative experience or anything. And I'm happy that I have that sort of, multicultural upbringing and But yeah, no, I don't really think that that played a part in me deciding that I wanted to make music. Or I think that perhaps it sort of made it easier for me to take the decision to move to London, because in my childhood I'd already moved to different countries, so it wasn't a big step for me, or I didn't really feel like I was making a big move just by sort of going to a, you know, England, where I didn't know anyone, or didn't have any family. It just felt like, you know, I can do this. You know, it's just like you just take your things, you go there, and that's it. You know, so whereas other people, you know, if they lived all their life in the same place and they finally moved to another country, and it's like, wow, such a big thing, you know. But for me, it was just like, well, you know, I can sort of do it anytime. You know.
Yeah, I have that double-edged sword when it comes to that stuff, because I do have a lot of, like, I've moved so much as a fucking kid, man. We were all over the place. I'm actually Australian. I have an Australian passport. I don't look or sound Australian. I'm from the Middle East, like, where it's a fucking salad. Whenever I meet someone, especially when we go back to the States, my wife's from the States, and we go back to the States, and I meet some people, and they're like, yeah, you know, like, my grandfather built this house, and we've been here since. Fuck. Yeah. I haven't lived in a house for over 2 years in my entire life. I don't know what that's like. Yeah. We've been bouncing around, but I always find it very interesting the way, like you said, it didn't necessarily affect it for you, but it just opened up a couple of more doors. We've had conversations with people where they were like, actually, that feeling of recluse and stuff made me focus on the music a little more. And or some people said like it was an outlet for lyrics, for example. It's very interesting how everyone kind of interprets their situations. I guess it's very unique to each person, but it's one of those things that I love talking about.
Yeah, no, and it's very interesting, actually. You know, I mean, it really, I think it sort of gives you a unique perspective on everything. You know, so and as you said, you know, when you meet people who you know, their grandparents lived in the same house, and they sort of, you realize that it's almost like sometimes people see the world like in two completely different ways, almost. You know, and which is not necessarily a bad thing, but you know, it's interesting to see how perspectives can be so different, based on basically whether you've sort of moved around or you stayed always in the same place.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things, man. I saw this one of the this guy Darren Brown, I think his name is. He's one of these mentalists. He's from the UK. I think Darren Brown. Where he did the people read their horoscope, and he gave it out to, like, I don't know, 14 different people, and they all responded crazy. They started crying. That some of them were freaking out. Turns out it was all the same pattern. It's just the way you interpreted it. It was all the same text. So it's one of those things. It's like it's a perspective and upbringing and all that stuff could change drastically for each individual person.
It does.
How you look at that stuff. Let's jump into you know, moving to London and taking that stuff seriously. How did friends and family react when you're like, yo, man, I'm a move countries and go start a rock band? How did that plan out?
I think it was because I sort of developed the idea gradually. They sort of, you know, had time to sort of get used to it a little bit. It's not, I didn't sort of lay it out on them from morning to night, you know, just, guys, I'm moving to London. Bye. It wasn't like that. So I guess they had some time to get used to the idea. My parents were still in Mexico anyway. I was in France already, sort of in university. My parents were in Mexico. So they were too far away anyway to be able to do anything. So they just sort of more or less had to accept it. But my parents have always been very supportive of what I wanted to do anyway. So it's never been too much of an issue. My grandparents, who I lived with in France as well, were sort of, you know, they had time to warm up to the idea, and eventually, I guess they thought, you know, he's either gonna come back in 6 months and realize that it was a stupid idea and sort of, you know, live a normal life, or he's sort of gonna find his path and he'll be all right. And I think a lot of friends probably also thought that, you know, I'll be back in 6 months, but I wasn't, you know. In the end, I think, you know, when you have a clear goal and you really know what you want, you know, you're going to follow that to the end. I think I've seen a lot of people. London is the kind of city that attracts a lot of people who sort of want to, you know, a lot of young people who just, you know, want to try something new, but you find that the ones who end up staying are the ones who sort of knew what they wanted from the beginning, you know. So some people, sometimes they're a bit lost in, you know, they're going through a phase in their life, and they sort of, you know, want to get out and experience something new, but then they end up coming back, you know. But I think if you know what you want, you're going to follow that to the end, unless there's maybe like some kind of, you know, massive tragedy that happens in your life or something. But other than that, I think if you know what you want, you're always going to try to pursue that and really focus on that.
With that kind of drive, have you experienced having people that weren't as focused? They might have said they were or wanted to be at first, but with that kind of push that you have, people falling off the radar kind of for you while you were, you know, following that very specific goal you had in mind?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, it's been a journey, you know, trying to first of all, because I came to London with the idea of starting a band, but that would be my band because I already had some songs written and I sort of had a direction and a focus. So essentially, I was trying to recruit people to join my band and you know, without being mean, but in a way to sort of tell them what to do. You know, you're going to join the band and you're going to play my songs and I mean, I never stop anyone from writing music, but you know, it would still be sort of, you know, I would be sort of the band leader, and yeah, when I first moved into London, I definitely, you know, ran into all sorts of people that you know weren't very serious about that. Sort of, you know, they look like they wanted to do something, but then when they realize what they got to do, then they sort of don't want to do it anymore. Yeah, the first year was sort of a bit of a mess, which is also what pushed me to go into music education. Because that's when I went to music university was here in London, and it was after a year of sort of being a bit frustrated because I was sort of, you know, I was trying, you know, putting ads. I was doing it the old school way because obviously I'd read all these stories about bands like, you know, Motley Crue and stuff, putting ads in the paper and finding, you know, the perfect guy for the band and stuff. And I thought, well, that's the way you do it, you know. So I put ads. I went to, there's a street in London where a lot of music shops were, called Denmark Street, and it was sort of like a known place for, you know, putting ads and stuff like that, and musicians hang out there and stuff. So I put loads of ads there, and some people responded, but it was always, at the end of the day, they were sort of time wasters, and also hanging out in all the rock bars and rock clubs and meeting people who sort of, you know, looked like they maybe wanted to do something, but I couldn't find anyone serious and anyone who was good enough and committed, and it was because of that I sort of figured, well, there's a problem. I got to figure out how to do this. And so first of all, I got to find better musicians, and second, I got to work on myself. So that sort of prompted me to go into music education. And when I did, it was definitely the right decision, because it really helped me, you know, become much more professional and sort of reach the place where I wanted to be, and also meet people that had the same drive. And that is the reason why I ended up sort of forming the first version of the band with people from that school, because it's the only place where I could meet people that sort of had the level and the drive to sort of do this, you know.
Yeah, if you're studying for it, you probably have the right crowd, at least to kick things off. Exactly. for the band.
Yeah, that's right.
Was it when you first went there and you started mingling with you know, the first incarnation of the band? Did everyone have the same kind of idea, or was it still your kind of focus? Because I know you primarily write most of the songs and even some of the lyrics for Neonfly.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. Did you go in intentionally with the idea of still, I want to kind of, you know, be the band leader guy, or was it something that naturally happened and it funneled through with the rest of the band?
Yeah, well, I think it just happened naturally, you know. I mean, the thing is, before I sort of managed to form the band, I was looking for members and stuff, but I wasn't sort of wasting time. Just I was using that time to write as well. So I was sort of perfecting my writing, writing as many songs as I could, really, that I felt were good enough, and trying to record demos and stuff. So by the time I formed the band, I had already written a few songs that ended up on our first demo, actually. And so that already had a basis, like a place to start. So it's like, well, you're going to be joining this band, and there are already some songs. So, we've already got some stuff to play. And so there was already something put together, which I'd done on my own, because obviously, I was on my own from the start. So yeah, so then it was just a case of, the guys joining and sort of, wanting, yeah, I mean, trying to contribute some ideas as well, but eventually a couple of the guys left and stuff, and so yeah, I sort of ended up being the sort of the band leader, because I'd sort of started the band myself with my material, and also because sort of people were more or less happy to sort of let me sort of take that role as well. So it sort of ended up happening naturally.
Yeah, it's very cool. I'm always very curious about that kind of stuff, because there's like I said, the spectrum of extremes where everyone kind of contributes to one song versus a set vision of one of the members that could really drive home the idea. But at the same time, you guys don't really listening to your album stuff, you guys don't really have like a one particular box that you fit in. It's also still all over the place, even though it's primarily the same person writing the songs, which I think is really fucking cool. It shows a lot of versatility, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in terms of writing, I mean, I always I just like so much music, and so many different sounds, and I always found it a bit boring when bands sort of always sound the same, with the exception of a few bands like AC/DC who are always going to be cool, but sometimes you buy an album and sort of it's got its own sound, but it's hard to sort of differentiate the songs between themselves, yeah. And I one thing I knew from the start with this band is that I never wanted to have that feeling with my own music. So every time I wrote a song, I sort of, it's like, well, this song is written, it's like that. The next song is going to be something different. So, there we go. Yeah, so I always try to write songs that were different from each other somehow, that sort of offered sort of a wide spectrum of different influences and sounds and because I think it's more exciting, but Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. It keeps you on your toes as well. Let's talk a little bit about the early days of the band, the first incarnation, before the festivals, before the tours, before all that stuff. Guys are fresh out of the music school. You have what was it called, Neonfly at the time? Was it from the start? Yeah,
that's what it was
from the start. Yeah, from our first demo, it was Neonfly. Yeah.
And where did that name come from? What does that name mean to you?
Well, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Nice. I like that.
Truth is, nobody knows, actually. I don't think I've ever told anyone where that comes from. But so I always make up some kind of wacky story that makes no sense to everybody. But so it will remain a mystery. People will have to figure it out by themselves.
I like that. I like that a lot. It gives it even more character. Like because it's one of those things. Explaining it kind of already puts one certain value to it. But if you leave it open, then everyone can have their own interpretation.
There's gotta be a little bit of mystery somewhere.
Exactly. What were shows and trying to get the band off the ground like first? Were you guys handing out flyers again in Denmark Street?
Yeah.
What was that stuff like?
So much of that. We did so much flyering. I did so much flyering in our early days. at outside shows, whenever any kind of metal band played in London, which happens pretty much at least 4 times a week, well, at least before COVID. So there were always metal shows, big and small, everywhere. And when we had a big show coming up that we wanted to promote, we always printed flyers, and I was out there, when people come out of the show, I was handing out flyers to everybody. And I think it helped a little bit at the time. It was social media was still sort of relatively new. Well, you had MySpace. MySpace was a big thing, but it was. And when Facebook started, it was very difficult. There was no ads or anything like that, so it was very difficult to promote stuff like that. So it was still the old school way. Still felt sort of like a good idea to go out there flyering and do that. So yeah, definitely, the first couple of years we did a lot of flyering. I mean, I remember those nights, going out, trying to catch the, if it wasn't a show that I was attending myself, just trying to catch the time when people would be coming out. And a couple of times I was late. So, sometimes I had to travel sort of all the way to the other side of the city to go flyering, just to find that I literally just missed it and everybody was already out on the tube. So that was frustrating. But yeah, no, there was a lot of that for sure. Definitely a lot of flyering. And what else did we do? A lot of posters. We printed so many posters, and those were when we played festivals or our first festival shows. I mean, I've been going to festivals as a fan for years, and one thing I noticed in European festivals, which I always thought was really cool, is that when you're walking from the camping area to the festival area, and there's a lot of fences and stuff, and there's so many bands that put their posters up there, and you sort of end up looking at them, and you might actually remember their band name just because literally you saw it every day when you were drunkenly walking back and forth or whatever, and if they were playing at the festival, then I guess, and you didn't know them, I guess it would give you at least an incentive to sort of watch them over any other band that you didn't know. So that always caught my attention. And when we played our first festival shows, I did the same thing. We printed loads of posters and went out there with the band and a couple of friends, and we would put them all over the festival. And then, 2 days later when we played, we found out that actually, loads of people would come to see us because they'd seen the poster and they were curious, and I think that really helped a lot, our early days to sort of actually create a bit of a buzz, and get people excited about, who's this new band and, what are they doing and stuff.
We'll go back to the timeline in just a sec, but I also remember reading about your affinity for festivals. Like you said, you're a big fan of them and stuff. But even I heard even when you play festivals, you don't necessarily even like to be in the kind of artist area. You'd rather be in the campgrounds. You'd rather be right in the front, and you'd rather be right there where the action is.
Yeah, well, I like both, to be honest. I mean, I'm not gonna pretend that I don't like hanging out in the artist area as well. But as I said before, we started playing festivals with my band. I'd been going to festivals as a fan for years. I started my first festival. I went there when I was 16. So, and I loved the atmosphere and the vibe so much that I wanted to go to so many festivals, and I always went to festivals in other countries. I traveled during the summer to go to different festivals, and I love the vibe and the fun that you can have as a fan. When you literally don't worry about music business or anything. You just go there innocently as a fan, just to have fun, watch the bands you like, meet people, get drunk, get laid possibly or whatever, and all the crazy adventures that can happen to you when you're at a festival, just with an open heart, just having fun and stuff. And I love that feeling, and I did it so many times when I was a kid that when we started playing the festivals, I took it as an opportunity to sort of be at the festival as well. So. Yeah. A lot of bands, obviously they got a busy schedule, and they come in on their tour bus. They arrive during the day, play the show, and then they go to the hotel or whatever, and they'll drive off, and that's it. But we always wanted to. I mean, well, we also didn't have 2 or 3 festivals to play on the same weekend, so obviously that helps. But when, for example, Masters of Rock in Czech Republic, whenever we play that, we always stay for the whole festival, and we're camping as well. We've done camping in the in that festival. We don't actually camp exactly in the main area where people are camping, but there's like another area where the people that are working at the festival are camping, and usually we park our van there and we're camping there, and then we get to go to the festival the whole weekend and watch the bands and hang out with people, and it's really fun. And sort of it brings back the feeling that of those first festivals. But on top of that, I get the added benefit that I also get to play, so that's even more exciting for me. So yeah, I love festivals, man. It's just the vibe is just great.
When do you remember the actual, like, was there a point in time in the band's history where, handing out flyers in Denmark Street or hanging out in Camden outside the Crowbar to like, oh shit, we just got booked for a festival and we're about to play for I don't know how many thousand people? Or what was there a part where it switched and you're like, this is working and this is what we're going to stick to?
What do you mean? Like in terms of what is working?
This band is it's no longer just the small, like, bar band.
Right.
Like we're actually making it to some degree now, and like if we stick to this, it might get bigger. Like, was there that discussion, or did you just know from the beginning, like, I'm not stopping until this works?
Yeah, well, I think from the I can be quite stubborn at times, so I think that I always had the mentality of I'm not stopping until it works. But I worked really, really, really hard to get all the stuff that we got. So from the early days, flyering and sort of being there on the street, doing all that stuff to later on. Getting the festivals, by making the phone calls ourselves, because we didn't have any kind of management or booking agency or representation of any kind. We were basically just on our own, and I did a lot of the stuff just by picking up the phone and doing the research online and calling the numbers and getting rejected by everyone until somebody decided to say yes, and then it was like, wow, it was worth it. But I think that because it happened. Progressively, and it was all the fruit of hard work that I was putting in. I guess I never sort of saw the transition. It all sort of felt logical to me because it was all. I think nothing happened by chance. It's 100% everything happened related to the hard work that I was putting in and we were putting in, and as a direct result of if we got a festival, it was a direct result of me making that phone call or something like that. We definitely we haven't had a lot of favors with this band, put it this way. There's very, very few things that happen just like suddenly somebody called us and that's it. You're going on tour with. It was all us pushing very, very, very hard to get the stuff. So in a way, we weren't particularly surprised when suddenly we got the tour, because we'd basically been there trying to get it and trying to get a million other tours at the same time and getting rejected until finally we got, so it was more like we got it and it's like, oh, finally, after all this. It was definitely 100% the fruit of hard work and very little luck involved. That sense. I think other bands have been much more lucky than us in that sense, and I really wish we had about 10% of luck, because honestly I don't think it's even 1% of luck that we've had. This is very hard work.
This is why I love this. You were talking about like you guys were prepared and stuff. One of my favorite quotes is there is no luck. Luck is just preparation meeting opportunity. So it's you guys spending the time to be prepared so that if someone did pick up the phone and say, hey, you want to jump on this tour, you're ready to go the next day. It's things like that really make those opportunities count.
Yeah, for sure. And actually we did have a thing like that happen actually in 2014 when we supported Dragon Force in the UK. I'd sort of known Herman for a while because he sometimes hangs out in London. Well, not anymore because now he's fully living in the US now, I think. But back in the day, he did hang out in London. Sometimes you'd sort of run into him at bars and stuff. And and we did have a manager working with us at the time that worked with us for a short time, and she knew Herman quite well and stuff. So Herman was and Sam Totman, the other guitarist. He knew about us for sure because he actually liked us and had come to see us live a couple of times, which was really, really cool. But so they knew about us, they knew who we were, and we'd been trying to get on their tours for a while, but they always confirmed another band, and so on that tour they'd already confirmed the band, a support band. They only wanted to take one band on tours, so just one main support, and that's it. And they confirmed that band, so that tour was off the charts. So we were looking for other stuff, but there was an issue with that band, and they basically pulled out sort of 3 weeks before the tour, and so Herman got in touch with our manager at the time, and said, well, how about, do you think Neonfly would be willing to jump on it? And she said, probably yes. Let me give him a call. So she called us, and we were ready to go immediately, and we did the tour, and that was one of the best tours we did, actually. The one with Dragon Force. We did about 20 shows in the UK. We've been to places in the UK where you would never ever go in your life. But it was fun. Yeah, we played everywhere, and we had a great time. And again, that was just we were ready to go because we were constantly looking for tours anyway. So we were ready to go at any moment, and I think that really worked for us back then. And it was it was just a last minute thing that they had a cancellation, and they needed another band, and we were able to jump in. So that was really good stuff. And but the reason why they knew about us at the end of the day was because of all the work that we put in before. So it wasn't a coincidence in that sense.
A lot of bands, and I'm talking to everybody that's listening to this. I know there's a lot of musicians and aspiring musicians, and even people much younger that listen to the show. They don't necessarily emphasize the importance of networking as much as they should. I know you're talking about they came out to your shows. Dragon Force, the guys knew you guys personally and stuff. But also, you guys hung out around people that were in the industry as well, and stuff like that. And I feel like it's long. There's a weird gap in this next generation where they're really not building a scene. They're not part of what we used to call a scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. Well, the thing is nowadays, just in the space of a couple of years, things already changed so fast with technology and everything, and obviously. Nowadays, the number one way to discover music is Spotify, I think, and or YouTube maybe. And so most people are just focusing on advertising for Spotify and for YouTube and pushing this stuff. And some people are getting really, really good results with that. So I think that, and now that's more or less how bands get discovered. So I don't know. I think that the networking part sort of worked for us for a while, but nowadays it definitely feels much more oriented towards anything you're doing online, rather than. I think networking probably still has a place, but online has taken over so much, and especially now also because of the pandemic, that it feels like it's the place where you're going to get discovered anyway. So, networking, it had its ups and downs, it's ultimately, I think that when we were doing it, we weren't specifically trying to go networking. We were just going out basically, and people were hanging out, and you just end up meeting people, sometimes you didn't expect it, but it just ended up happening. So I think if you went out specifically with the mindset to go networking and meet some important people, then people would sort of
It'll be a little different
from a mile away,
Absolutely.
So then you'd look like somebody who's just out there trying to get something, it was just basically going out and having fun, and suddenly you end up meeting people, and in the rock scene, I think in London and in many other places is there's always new people that come in, but there's always a core of people that you always run into everywhere, and then you end up knowing them, and it turns out some of them, probably have some connections and stuff, and with some time you end up sort of meeting quite a few people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the primary point of what I was trying to say. Not necessarily networking, like trying to grab a business card, but building that like scene mentality where
exactly.
There is a little bit of a culture behind the rock and the metal music. To a point where like if something does happen, people know who's around at least.
For sure.
Which we suffer from here in the Middle East, because in the Middle East and specifically in Dubai as well, there's a lot of ups and downs. For a small scene, we really like to divide each other in this in this country. But I wanted to play a little bit of Neonfly before we continue this conversation, because I wanted to show everybody that might have not heard the band. A lot of people from the Middle East. I see Sandy Manav is in the house. I see a whole bunch of Josh is in the house. What's going on, my dude? A lot of people that might not have heard it on this side of the world. I wanted to play The Future Tonight, the full music video, and let us know. And you guys, if you know the drill. If you like what you're hearing, and if you enjoy it, you gotta throw up the fire. You gotta do all the fire emotes and throw up all those things. All right. So do you want to intro the song in any way, or tell us a little bit about the music video before we hit play on this?
Well, so there's quite a long story about it, so I'm not sure if maybe after the video I can talk about it. But it's one of my favorite songs from the album, and the one that gives the title to the album, because we really like it, and it's a song about that deals with issues of mental health and depression and addiction, and which we felt was an important topic to talk about, and the video sort of tells a story related to that, which I can explain later.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hit this video, and then we'll talk about the song and the video and everything right after this, you guys. Peace.
All right.
Dreams can be bittersweet, and the daylight seems to last forever, when all you need is a place to hide away. All these dark thoughts and fractured scenes are a shadow play that makes me restless. Time goes by as I wait for Judgment Day. I can feel it coming, thunder, lights and wind and rain. All it takes to keep me burning. One more shot to keep me sane. Another red light burning in my brain. I'm in hell, no, I won't apologize. I'm in hell, but I still got heaven in my sights. I'm in hell, no, I won't apologize. I still believe in heaven. I can see the future fade away, and the water around me feels so empty. It's all gone in a moment. Another spirit laid to rest. I don't wanna live another day. I'm a rocket burning up on entry, so a life that's wasted. Please give me a sanctuary. Breaking down all the screams and shouts, all the dreams of mercy. Who's pretending? No one cares if I crash without a sound. And I never wake up. Thunder, lights and wind and rain are all it takes to keep me burning. One more shot to keep me sane. Escape, the roads keep turning. Silence in a crowded room. Took the hits without complaining. Rather me than all of you. Another red light burning in my brain. I'm endless black and the times I tried to make things better. Some things pass, but some dreams are meant to last, and they never let up. I can see the future fade away, and the water running feels so empty. It's all gone in a moment. I know my spirit laid to rest. I don't wanna live another day. I'm a rocket burning up and now I can fly away and stay this way forever.
Yo, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. We need to talk about the video, and we need to talk about a whole bunch of things. Let me just change this real quick. We need to talk about the video and the song, because there's a guest on the song, and the actual location of the video is also an important one. So tell us a little bit about the song and video.
Right, where should I start? The guest, Björn Street from Soilwork, and the Night Flight Orchestra, and a bunch of other projects that he's got going. He's everywhere. But yeah, his main band, obviously Soilwork and the Night Flight Orchestra. Funnily enough, all this stuff goes back to a festival story, and that is why I love festivals so much.
Full circle.
So back in 2005. When I was just a fan, I went to Sweden Rock Festival. It was my second time going to Sweden Rock, but that time I went entirely on my own, because the first time I went with a friend, I convinced a friend to come with me, which was cool. But I ended up hanging out mostly with that friend, and this time I went entirely on my own. So I was open to meeting anyone. I just wanted to party, have fun, and who knows, what would happen. And it was a really good experience, because I think when you sort of go put yourself out there on your own, you sort of force yourself to meet people and talk to people. And I ended up meeting a bunch of Swedish people. They were, the typical thing that happens at campsites, at festivals. There's somebody brings a couple of instruments, and then suddenly there's like a drunken jam night, and any person that passes by that can play a bit of an instrument will start singing or doing whatever, and it's all really bad, but it's really fun anyway. And most people are drunk, so yeah, there was some of that going on, and there was a drummer playing, and he was a big Halloween fan, and I could play "I Want Out" by Halloween, so they wanted to sort of, so I was like, okay, so I grabbed the electric guitar and we started playing that together, and then somebody was singing really badly, I think, and so I met those guys, and he was with a bunch of other friends, and so we bonded, and we got drunk together and stuff, and hung out with them for the whole festival. It was great, and then turned out to be really good friends. So I went back to visit them in Sweden a couple of times. And one of those times, it was in a city called Helsingborg in the south of Sweden. And one of those times, we went to, Björn lived in that city as well. And he was really, really good friends with my friend who was a drummer. And so one time I went to visit my friend, and we ended up going to Björn's house. And just hung out, watched the movie, had a couple of beers and stuff, and chatted, and Björn was really, really cool, really friendly. I told him I was sort of trying to put together a band and all that, but obviously I'm sure he's heard that story a million times, so I didn't really think he would particularly care or anything. So, from that point on, when he came to London to play with Soilwork, at the time of Soilwork, this Night Flight Orchestra wasn't really going on at the time. I went to see him, and he put me on the guest list, and chatted a little bit after the show, which was great. But then we lost touch for several years, and it wasn't until I think it was maybe 2019 that I went to see him again with the Night Flight Orchestra. And to my surprise, he remembered me very well. He sort of knew very well who I was, because we hadn't spoken for ages, so I didn't think he'd remember me. But he did, and we chatted and sort of got in touch again. And then later that year, we played at a festival together in Germany, which ended up being the last show that Neonfly played before the pandemic, which was in September 2019, we played a festival called the Indoor Festival in Hamburg, and which, as the name says, is an indoor festival in the city. But it's cool. It's a big venue, and there's a lot of bands playing. And he was playing there with Nightlight Orchestra, and we were playing with Neonfly, and so we got chatting to him again. And it was a couple of months before we went into the studio to record this album. And I already knew that I wanted to have a guest singer doing screaming vocals and stuff like that. And I thought, I'm going to ask him, because, if it's now or never, I gotta ask him. And he said, well, send me the song, and if I like it, I'll do it. So yeah, he liked it and he did it essentially. So it was cool, but ultimately the reason why I met that guy was because of a funny festival story.
It all boils down to one epic song from even different countries, visiting different people. Yeah, it all boiled down into that one song.
That's right.
So you guys went in the studio, recorded it, everything went down. When it came time for the music video, was it you guys, because you said, it's one of your favorites. It's the title of the album, all the stuff was kind of pointing to this being the single in the video. Did you guys have an idea immediately, or was it something that you guys had to cook up for this video?
No, it's sort of, we had to think about it. I mean, we knew that we wanted this to be the single, but I think that with music videos, it's, I mean, at least for us, we sort of want to make videos that are cool to watch and that have a story and that have something exciting, and with The Future Tonight, it's a song, as I said, about a serious theme. It's about mental health and the depression and addiction, and the lyrics are partly inspired. I mean, I co-wrote the lyric with Willie the singer. My part of the lyric was inspired by my experience dealing with friends who were really affected by depression issues, and even housemates, people that I lived with that were really, really close to me and really good friends, and I watched them sort of go down a very dark path, and so the lyric for me was inspired by those experiences, being really close to my friends when they were really, really low. And unfortunately also with the realization that mental health issues are not something that you just one day wake up and get rid of. It's something that for most people it's something that is there for life, and it doesn't always end well. I mean, we've seen obviously in terms of big celebrities like Chester Bennington or I forgot his name, the singer of The Prodigy, that obviously it didn't end well for them. They couldn't overcome their demons, and so it's a combination of all those things, that I wanted to express with the lyrics. And the lyric is a lyric that it doesn't have a happy ending. It's not a lyric that we don't try to paint things with a in a way that they're not. We just show the reality, which is that sometimes those demons are too strong and not everybody can overcome them, so in a way, it's a song that we don't try to sugarcoat things, and the video, obviously, we wanted to do something that would be exciting to watch, so we wanted to do something that would be cinematic, sort of like a movie, but that presented a story that was related to this topic and that dealt with this, and so on the video, you see, you see us, being handcuffed and blindfolded, sort of fighting against this unknown character, some kind of interrogator or somebody who's there, torturing us and threatening us with a gun and physically abusing us, and that is sort of the expression of people struggling against their mental health demons, against this unknown force that is there threatening you. But then there's a plot twist at the end of the video where, in fact, then the interrogator appears blindfolded himself on his own, and then replaying some of the sequences from the video entirely on his own. And then you realize that, in fact, he had been on his own all the time, and everything was in his head, and he's the one that was actually struggling with his inner demons. So that's basically the plot twist. That was inspired a little bit by the movie Fight Club, where where you see Edward Norton in the end realizes that he'd been talking to himself all the time, and so that's some of that came from that movie, the inspiration, and so basically that's how it all connects to the theme of mental health and sort of a way to present the struggle against those inner demons.
Very cool. Do you find the way you were talking about the video? I felt for those that don't know, I did a lot of work in video production and stuff. I felt like that might be another outlet for you. Do you find that like visual art or film or any of that stuff is also something that you like working on? Is it something that's a part of what you bring to the table in the band?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really enjoy it, and I think that this was done under a lot of pressure, actually. So unfortunately, perhaps I didn't get to enjoy it as much as I wanted to. But I'm very proud of the way it turned out, and the way we came up with the story. And I mean, in terms of the video, I am very, very involved. I mean, obviously, I don't touch any of the technical. I mean, we hired a video crew, and they handled everything, and they did an amazing job. But I did write the whole script and a shot list and everything, and I had a pretty clear idea of how I wanted the shots to be, so there's definitely a lot of directing in that sense that was done from me, I really enjoyed it. I think that. I mean, ultimately, I have an idea in my head when I come up with all this stuff, and I sort of wanted to see it translated as best as possible. So that's why I write all these long shot lists and stuff. And but the video crew, obviously, they there's also a director there, and they're the ones that know how to translate that into actually making it look good on a camera, and lighting up the different scenes and creating the atmosphere and doing all that. So I mean, that's definitely 100%. All of them. That's not me. I'm not really involved in all of that. But I mean, I enjoy it for sure. It's hard work, but I don't know if I'd be able to do it so passionately for someone else. I think that part of the reason why I'm able to do a lot of the things that I do is because I'm doing it for my band, But I think that sometimes it does take so much energy and so much that I'm not sure that if I'd be able to put all that energy into doing work for someone else that I'm not so emotionally attached to, But I definitely enjoy it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you wouldn't go handing out flyers for someone else's band. That's you've definitely dedicated a lot more to this band.
Unless they paid me a lot of money.
We touched on it a little earlier. The new age of what a band is focusing on, stuff like video, stuff like the Spotify playlists, all that stuff, versus the old stuff. But a lot of the reviews that I looked up online about you guys playing live have always had one word in common, and that's energy. Yeah. Almost every single review I saw, every single little article that I dug up, they all had the word energy. And is that something you guys strive for a live show? Is that something that you guys from the beginning talked about? Like this is how we want to bring this kind of music to the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there was always I always wanted to have a band that was really fun and entertaining to watch live, when we first created the band with the original members, was something that I said to everybody. We have to perform. We have to, and for some members it sort of came naturally. They were really into it. Others, we had to sort of get them to that stage. Ultimately, I mean, Willie, our singer, is a natural born performer. He loves to jump around and do all the crazy stuff. So definitely no issues there. Paul as well, our bass player, and our drummer Deck as well. But it's always harder when you're behind the drums. That video, that's from 2015. That was our old drummer. It was Boris on the drums, and the other guitarist, Andy Midgley. He was really good as well. And yeah, I mean, we always wanted to put on a performance and do stuff like, you know, like on that one, that video that people are watching now, it was all related to Aztec culture, you know, because it was our second album, Strangers in Paradise, had a heavy influence from a visual point of view from Aztec culture, and a couple of songs, you know, Heart of the Sun is about the conquistadors, and there's a song Aztec Gold as well. And so the whole presentation was related to sort of Aztec visuals, and that's why I'm wearing the helmet, you know.
I was about to ask about that. There was there was definitely a theme, like a visual theme, as well as the performance.
Yeah. So it was all, and also because I'm half Mexican, obviously, you know, that I felt like that was part of my culture in a way. The funny thing is, most people didn't really understand what we were doing, so they saw the helmet and stuff, but because they didn't know a lot of places where we played, you know, it was the first time they heard about the band, so they didn't know I was half Mexican, and they didn't know that we had this Aztec thing going on at the time. So they didn't really sort of put two and two together, and they had no idea what they were looking at, basically, in terms of except when we went to Spain. When we went to Spain, people definitely understood 100% what it was, because obviously it's part of their history and culture, but the further east in Europe we went, the less people sort of understood what we were doing, which was kind of funny. But yeah, so you found two kind of people, you know, the ones that really loved it because they thought it was visually very exciting, and the ones that were like, what the fuck are these guys doing? So yeah, but yeah, no, that was sort of the presentation that we had going on for the second album, because it was sort of related to the sort of the image and the artwork and the concept, you know.
It's really amazing to me that that you bring up artwork very often, because it is something that got you into this music in the first place. It's something that you know, you said that first Eddie, that first Maiden was a thing that got you into it. And I've noticed a lot of patterns, even just you talking about it now, where there is a lot of visual elements to the music, including just simply the way you guys look, even in like promo photos and stuff, not only on live. There's an aesthetic to it. I believe that's intentional. Correct me if I'm wrong, but also, is there an influence behind it? Is there something that drove that, or is it just from kind of a packaging idea that you guys have, where everything fits together?
Yeah, no, I think you know, I've always been interested in presentation, you know, because that's ultimately what it all comes down to. You know, it's about the image of the band, the way you present yourself live, and the way you appear, you know, whenever you're doing a public appearance in front of the cameras or whatever. You know, I always looked up when I was growing up and sort of getting into bands and music. You know, as I said, I started with power metal and stuff like that, and then from there I went into 80s hair metal. And so, you know, big image, big looks, and I loved that back in the day, you know, because I think that with European power metal, one thing that happened a lot is that sometimes they neglected a little bit the visual aspect, and they sort of, you know, especially on stage, sometimes you went to some shows and some bands just more or less just stood on stage and played their songs very well from a technical point of view, but it wasn't that exciting to watch. And when I discovered 80s hair metal, it was the complete opposite. You know, it was just like, you know, right in your face, you know, big visual impact. And I fell in love with that as well. And I think that originally the desire to sort of create a very explosive live show came from watching those bands perform. When you watch like Motley Crue and Rat and all those bands from the 80s, when they were young, what they were doing and how their shows were and how impactful their shows were. I think that that sort of taught me a lesson in terms of how to do something exciting on stage, you know. And then, you know, some of the younger, more extreme bands were also quite explosive on stage, and I was also into that. Later on, I got into that, you know, and that was also very exciting to watch. And yeah, but you know, I always was so I guess it was a mix of so many influences, but I always wanted to put together a package that visually was exciting and that was coherent, you know, as well, you know, with the artwork and just like on the new album, I spent a very, very long time choosing the artist for the album cover, artist Noma from South Korea. I found him on Instagram actually, but I spent so much time looking for the right artist, and because I wanted to find somebody whose art already corresponded sort of visually to what I felt was the sound of the album, and that I could feel some kind of connection. And I think that, and I'm really happy with him, and I love his art and the art that he created for us for the album. It's just amazing, and so it is important for me that the whole package is completely coherent, from the band pictures to the artwork of the album, the booklet, the everything, the presentation, the music videos, obviously as well. So yeah, there's got to be a connection with everything, and especially I think on this album, we really worked very hard on creating a whole concept together, in that sense.
I actually, sorry about that. I actually have a video of the artist working on the artwork. You guys did a time-lapse lyric video together to showcase just the amount of work that went into this thing. Which, first of all, the song is amazing, but the time that it took to make the artwork and the booklet, because I watched the time-lapse video and I was thinking, how long did this take? So from inception, you found this guy, you guys kind of came up with a collective idea. How did you guys start molding this? And then right after that, we'll play the video to Beating Hearts.
Yeah, well, as I said, it took a very long time to find the right artist, because I wanted to find an artist whose work already corresponded to what I wanted the artwork to be. I didn't want to take an artist and sort of tell him, now do something like this, which is completely different from what you usually do. I wanted to have an artist whose work was already just like I felt was already perfect, so that I would tell him, paint this, and he would do it in his style, and I knew that it would be just exactly how I wanted it. And so that's when I found Noma. I just felt like he was the right guy, and I spoke to him about the concept and all my idea behind it, and he really liked it, which was really nice, and he really wanted to be involved, and we've been in touch ever since. He posts a lot about us, and we post about him, and so it's been a great artistic sort of relationship that we forged, and I'm really, really happy about it. So then it was, just a case of me explaining sort of the ideas and everything, and the portraits of the band members, because that's how we didn't want to have a photo shoot for this album. We wanted to that the band pictures would be portraits of us, painted in Noma's style. I think it took him, I don't know, I think maybe a couple of days per portrait, but before that, he did take a lot of time of preparation. Sort of, he asked us some personal questions about us and stuff to sort of understand who we were before he started painting. It was really interesting. So the actual painting process, I think, was just a couple of days, from start to finish. I think you can see him on the time lapse, that he does that actually quite quickly. But he needs to sort of come up with the idea in his mind, and then he'll paint it. And I think that he takes maybe a couple of weeks to do that and ask some questions and stuff, and then he sort of paints the portraits.
Yeah. Well, you guys, let's check this video out. Do light the fires and do all the things that we're known for doing on this show. And you check the video out, but also it's a lyric video at the same time, so it's a double whammy. And this is Beating Hearts, you guys. We'll see you right after this.
We found a way to fight the darkness. We found a way to kill the We took 1,000 deadly shots of poison, washed them all away like rain. Kill the light all around us, burn the candles away. Sinners gather around and pray till the morning. Our sins are washed away. We don't need saving. We used to run wounds are no longer hidden. We bear the lasting mark of Cain. I feel no regrets, and now I'm coming back to life. My beating heart no longer lies, and now this vessel is no longer empty. Our sins are washed away. We don't need salvation. No matter what you say, there's poison in our souls. And now this vessel is no longer empty. The sound of beating hearts that lose control. Our sins will wash away. We don't need salvation. No matter what you say, there's poison in our souls. We don't need salvation. Oh, my heart's still beating.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. We had a lot of interesting comments in the chat while that was happening. Primarily from Josh right now. Where does that artwork exist? Where does it sit? Is it in someone's living room?
It's not in our living room, that's for sure. But no, well, actually, I'm not entirely sure. Noma painted that in South Korea in his studio. After that, I'm not sure if he still has the paintings in his studio, or because he's got different galleries that represent him in South Korea, and there's I think one in Switzerland as well, and in Canada, and I'm not sure if he would have shipped some of those to different galleries, because I mean, essentially we obviously, you know, it's his work, so we paid him for this artwork, but we paid him to create the work. We didn't pay him to buy the paintings, because that's a separate thing. I mean, he sells his paintings for a lot of money actually. So we couldn't afford that exactly. So we didn't. So we don't own the actual physical paintings, and those actually can be bought by any kind of art collector. I mean, they're part of the different galleries that represent him, you know, might put those on sale. So I don't know. I mean, I think in a way it's kind of funny that, you know, when I think that maybe some art collector might have a portrait of me in his living room, and
I was just
you know, it's just like some rich guy somewhere might have a portrait of me in his living room.
I was just about to say maybe a Neonfly diehard fan can snag those. Imagine having the collection, the original pieces.
Actually, they can, yeah. You know, either a diehard fan who wants to invest in that, or some random art collector that has no idea and will just buy it because he likes it. Because I mean, ultimately, I think they're great pieces of art. You know, I really love the style of Noma and the way he paints stuff. So I mean, the album cover, you know, it's not any of us. It's just one of his paintings, and that was a pre-existing work of his that I absolutely loved, and I just asked him if we could use that for the album cover, and you know, it's not a person I know or somebody actually I don't even know I assume it's a real person. I don't think he sort of painted that character out of the blue by himself. I think he was painting a portrait of someone. I don't know if it's someone he knows or if there's a backstory behind it. But I just found it so evocative that I really liked it. So ultimately, maybe that person is looking at us thinking, these guys have my face on their album. They don't do. So
imagine meeting someone one day and just being like, "Hey, by the way, my face is on your album cover."
Yeah,
yeah, that would be interesting. The other comment we got while we were playing that video is about the production, guitar tones and the kicks. Please me greatly, and they're from Reaper, and I know that you guys went all out in terms of production for this album as well.
Yeah, we did. I mean, to be honest, we went for this album and just we said it sort of has to be now or never. We're going to try and put everything on it, and that goes from the production to the guests on the album, to the artwork, to everybody. We try to work with really the best people we could find that we felt make sense for this album. And in terms of production, we hired Romesh Tangoda, who maybe some of the audience might know. He produced his work with Motorhead, with Bullet for My Valentine, Funeral for a Friend. He's done, I think, almost every album by Funeral for a Friend, and Bring Me the Horizon. He produced Ammo, which is their latest full-length album, because they've released some EPs after that, but I think it's their latest full-length album, which came out, I think, 2019, and went to number one in the UK, actually. So that was the Bring Me the Horizon's first number one. And got them nominated for a Grammy for the production as well. So Romesh got nominated for a Grammy out of that album, so he's a fantastic producer, and it was partly his work with Bring Me the Horizon that really motivated me to work with him, because I really like the way those albums sound, and also I think Bring Me the Horizon is a very exciting band that have really tried to do something different within the world of heavy music, from putting a straight pop song in a metal album, which is something no one's ever done like that.
And the transition they've had as well. If you think about like the old deathcore MySpace days up until now, it's mind blowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
The transition,
and I think it just it's a testament to their creativity and as musicians, and and I really respect that. And I think Romesh was the best producer for that album, and he made it sound amazing. And so that really appealed to me, that because we also like to sort of have an album that is quite varied, as we pointed out before, and I really wanted a producer that would not be just like, straight metal, and there's a lot of producers that can, give you that massive power and that metal needs, but we feel like our music sometimes needs that, but other times needs different things, and we felt like Romesh was really like a great all-around producer that could give us that. And so that was one thing. And then for the orchestration and the keyboards, we worked this time with pretty much my favorite arranger in metal, which is Miro Rodenberg, who is the keyboard player of Avantasia, and who also prior to that mostly worked in production, and he produced the best sounding orchestras and keyboards of European power metal albums were always by him. So he did stuff with Rhapsody back in the day, with Camelot, who have amazing sounds on their album, and with Angra, and with Avantasia, of course, as well, and loads of other bands. And the best sounding arrangements and the best keyboard sounds I always found were from Miro Rodenberg. I think he's really the best one in Europe for that kind of style. And because, in Neonfly, we've always liked to write big orchestral arrangements and big keyboard arrangements. It's a very important part of our sound, and we need somebody who's going to really deliver the best sounds and create something really exciting, So that's a very important part of the production as well. And so, working with Miro was again, really, really exciting, and very happy that he liked our music and wanted to be a part of the project. So again, that was really, really cool. So we feel like we had such a strong production team behind the album that really contributed to making it sound, and it sounds exactly like I wanted it to sound. I mean, it sounds just like I imagined. There's not sometimes you come out and you feel like, oh well, I wish I could have changed that. I mean, there's nothing on that album I would change. I love every I was so involved in it. But also working with those two guys that are obviously really, really good at what they do. I knew I could trust them blindly, and they did an amazing work.
Sounds. Oh, I was muted for a second. It also sounds that there was. You're very good at delegating. Not a lot of people in our spheres. Are very good at just, I like this guy's work. I like this guy's artwork. I'm going to give him something. You go and do that. I like the sound. I'm going to give him something. And you go do, like, you're delegating based on exactly what you want, but also, giving the right people the responsibilities is, Is that something you've had since you started, or is it something that has had to develop?
Funnily enough, I think not everybody would say that about me. I think the people who work with me tend to have the opposite impression, to be honest. But because to be honest, because I like to be really involved in every aspect, and I care about it a lot, and I want it done in the way that. But I'm also open to the input of people who I consider to be to know much more than me in a given subject. So in terms of production, with Romesh, I'm really not that good at production, to be honest myself. All the technical aspect of things is really not my. Songwriting is my strong point, but not producing. So when it comes to sounds and stuff, as a guitarist as well, I'm not very good at tweaking all this stuff. And so with Romesh, when I went into the studio, I told him, listen, I want to have this type of sound with my guitar. I let you do it. I mean, I did not touch a single knob on any amp during the production. I just basically let him set it up, and he set it up perfectly. And it was, obviously he asked me, do you like the sound and stuff? But I was, until we found the sound that we felt was right. But I trusted him 100% in that. I did not tweak anything in terms of guitars or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, for sure, whenever we're working with somebody who knows their stuff, and we hire them for that purpose. Of course, I want them to basically do their thing, So yeah,
it's funny that you say some people have commented that you might not be that guy. You are too involved, but to me, it sounds like it's just very good delegation. It's just like, I know that sounds good, or that guy can produce something that sounds good, and this artist has something that I like. I have a certain vision, but we'll delegate it to that person. Let them do the good stuff. Let them make it better. Because there are a lot of people in the scene that would want to tweak those knobs and have, even if they don't have the technical know-how, that like need to just like, no, let me do it my way kind of thing, right? Yeah.
Well, I think that I definitely I know my limits. I know what I know how to do and what I don't know how to do. And I think that I'm not particularly precious about stuff, and I'm not trying to pretend that I know more about a given subject that I don't. So when it comes to production and stuff, that's really not my strong point. So I literally, I'm not going to tell Romesh what to do. I mean, he's been doing it for like 20 years and he's had #1 albums. So, I'm not going to turn up and tell him, oh, you know what, I think this your guitar tone is a bit shit.
You need a little bit of a high cut over there, by the way.
So, especially when I don't even know much about that, so that would be pointless of me to do. But it's true that some people, they like to pretend that they know more about everything that they actually do. But I'm perfectly comfortable with knowing my limits and knowing what I can do and what I cannot do, and I'm not ashamed to say, well, that's not my area of expertise. So someone else can take care of that.
So we have a couple of questions in the question queue that actually relate to both the production side of stuff and a little bit more about the new record in general. Mm-hmm. So we have, how much do your songs change once you write them? is there a lot of input from other people, or do you work on them on your own more? And I think what they're trying to allude to is specifically like after, for example, a producer has had their run at the song.
Yeah, I don't think they changed that much, because actually, as a writer, I take. I consider myself to be a songwriter above a guitarist or anything else. I think that's basically my thing is writing. And so before we go into the studio, before I even take the songs to rehearsal, I basically write everything, and that's why I'm also not very fast at writing, because I really take a very long time. Sort of finding the right part and the right arrangement and the right everything, and sometimes it can be a bit frustrating, to be trying to come up with a section for days or weeks, and you don't come up with anything until you finally get it. But yeah, so because I'm so meticulous at the writing phase, when I finally present the song, it's pretty much there. It's everything, every note is written down to. And then when we take it to rehearsal, of course, I'm not a drummer, I'm not a singer, so I'll write the stuff, with MIDI and so obviously the drummer will come in and he'll play real drums on it, and of course it'll be a million times better than what I wrote, because he played real feels and stuff that a drummer would do, which and then the singer, I'll write the vocal melody, but maybe he'll interpret it slightly differently, and I'll be like, oh, I like how you changed that a little bit there, and so he might do small tweaks like that. So I think that those are the kind of changes that would happen. But the guys don't particularly write any kind of music, so in terms of writing, it's always me. But then when we take the songs to rehearsal, of course, they sort of they play real parts that make them come alive, as opposed to the MIDI that I programmed on the computer. So of course there's a difference there, that's for sure. And then in terms of production, when we take the songs, when we rehearse the songs and sort of take them to the studio, with Romesh particularly, he didn't really feel the need to change much. I think he made a few comments on some arrangements. For example, in backing vocals, he wanted to modify a couple of lines of the backing vocal, and so it's not stuff that you would hear like immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I think Romesh really liked the songs anyway. He really liked how they were, so I don't think he felt the need to. And they were very complete by the time we got to the studio, so I don't think he felt the need to sort of say, oh, you got to scrap that section or stuff. Like other bands sort of come to the studio with the songs half written, so there's still so much scope for them to work on things together. But I think that our songs were so written and so refined already by the time that we got to the studio that Romesh felt like that they were there. He might suggest when we were recording drums, he might suggest oh, can you sort of switch that snare, put there, and do stuff like that, but not like major stuff like literally scrapping a section and putting something else, or rewriting a part or stuff like that. Yeah.
Cool. Hopefully that answers your question. We got another question. Prince of Darkness saying, any guest musicians on the new record? I think Prince of Darkness walked in a little late. We did talk about Bjorn from Soilwork on the album already. Is there anyone else? Any other guests on the album?
Yeah. There's Kantasan from Heart of a Coward, UK sort of metalcore band, or I'm not sure if it's exactly metalcore, but yeah.
The genres these days, you can it's a full list.
It's a heavy band, put it that way. It's a very heavy band. And yeah, Khan is a good friend. Again, it's somebody that we've known for a long time, and we wanted to. There's 3 songs where we've got some growling or screaming vocals, and we wanted Björn to do The Future Tonight, and then for the other 2, we got Khan, because we actually recorded some demos before we went into the studio, and Khan did the demos for us, and then we liked them so much that we ended up keeping him for these 2 other songs, which are Steal the World, which we did a lyric video for as well, and another one called Another Eden, where he's got a much shorter part there. He's got a very small section, but we still use a little bit of growling there. But Steal the World is the main one, where he's got like a whole verse to himself, and he's got a big section there. It's really cool. So yeah, those are the guests.
There we go. Hopefully that answers your question, Prince of Darkness.
And Danny Divine on Venus as well, not to forget.
And that's,
so a bonus
that's
track
where,
Yeah.
That's actually where I was gonna go. I just saw though Grimdoors in the chat saying that they saw you in supporting Dragon Force years ago. That's
oh wow,
cool.
okay, that was in the UK then.
Yeah,
UK people. Awesome.
Welcome into the chat. Yeah, so I was going to switch it to say you guys did a track with Danny Devine, and for those that don't know Danny Devine, I wouldn't even know how to kind of introduce her to the people that might not know her.
Well, she's just a very famous alternative model. She's all the sort of fetish latex type of thing. She's one of the most famous, I think probably in the top 5, latex fetish models out there. She's got millions of followers on Facebook and Instagram. She's been doing that for years, she's sort of at least 10 years, so even before Instagram was cool and stuff. She's been around and, magazines, or all the sort of gothic, fetish, alternative magazines like that, so yeah, she's mostly a model, essentially. She's not a musician. She doesn't come from the music world, but she obviously, loves all the metal and alternative music and stuff like that. She's on the scene. She lives in London, and she hangs out in all the rock clubs and all the metal clubs. So she's a real metal girl. She's not just faking it or anything. I mean, she really is into the stuff. And the idea to get her involved in this was from the moment that we started doing this particular cover, and that we sort of decided to sort of, what for me I thought was extremely funny from a musical point of view, which was taking a song like Venus, which is sort of like a happy pop song, from whether you've heard the sort of super 80s keyboard oriented version of Bananarama or the original by Shocking Blue from the 60s, but and sort of make it like a really fucking metal, with a really big metal riff, give it a Metallica vibe, and sort of put all the metal cliches in it, like a narrated part in the middle, like with some acoustic guitar in the background, and sort of giving the lyrics a dark twist, because obviously Venus is the song about the goddess of love and desire. And but sort of giving a cynical twist, like she's an evil goddess of love and that controls men, and and that's why we introduced that section in the middle with Danny. And I thought, well, who could be the best person to play that character, to be that person? And I thought, well, Danny Devine's just like, she's made for that role, And since she's based in London, and we got so many friends in common and stuff, and I knew I could get in touch with her pretty easily, and sort of what I wanted to do really was sort of bring someone from the modeling world and from that is not from a musical world, and create a project where you'd be able to involve her in the song, because everybody would expect her. She's done other music videos in the past, she's featured on music videos by the 69 Eyes and other big bands like that, but only from a visual point of view. So I think that, if Danny announces to her fans that she's going to be on a video, everybody's going to expect that she's going to be just modeling or whatever, but the big surprise was that she was actually going to be in the song. So it's like, how's she going to be in the song if she's not a singer? Well, this particular section, which is narrated, which was made for that, and so we thought it was like an exciting collaboration to bring someone like that, and to get her involved, not only from a visual point of view, but like to actually make her part of everything of the song, and which I don't think is something that's been done before, And I think the closest thing I can think of is like when Manowar got like, Orson Welles to narrate a song on, or Rhapsody when they got Christopher Lee to narrate some stuff, So we wanted to sort of, have our own twist to that with a cover, just do something fun. And while I was thinking of all that and coming up with the arrangement, the whole idea for the music video came into my head, because it's all sort of connected. It all happened really quickly, and it sort of all happened together. I sort of saw everything in my head, like as a whole, and I thought, okay, I've got to do it like this.
Yeah.
So that's how it happened, and that's how the music video itself got developed as well. It just I just sort of, it just popped in my head like that as a whole thing, and I thought it was hilarious, and I thought it'd be really funny to do a cover of that song, sort of making it like full on metal, and with a big metal riff, and yeah, so that's how it happened.
And I feel just from the comments online and the general reception of the music video and the song and stuff, everyone kind of felt that too. Like it was taken with that kind of approach. Like no one was like, no, how dare you do? You know what I mean? Like metalheads tend to be a little, a little crazy when it comes to that stuff. But it seemed like everyone kind of got it. Like everyone understood what was supposed to be going on.
I think a lot of people got it, but I think there's definitely some of the reactions that you described as well. I think that, when it comes to doing covers, I think that if we're going to do a cover, I think we got to do it in our own way. We got to change it. It's not. I'm not interested in sort of taking the song and playing it exactly like the original. Any band can do that in their own garage. You don't need to be. So if we're going to do a cover, we got to change it, and we got to do something exciting and creative with it. And so that's the reason why I wanted to do this cover, because I changed it in my own way, and I did something to be. And I think that when you do something so bold to a song that is very well known, there's always going to be some people that are not going to like it, and others that are going to think it's very exciting and very cool. So I think we had a bit of both. I think that what we had as well is that because Danny was involved in it, and she's got such a big legion of fans, I think all the Danny fans came in and sort of were like, oh, amazing, because obviously they're like, So I think Danny fans definitely appreciated it. I think a lot of other people also appreciated it, but there was definitely some people, and I think there's some people also who did not like the fact that we were working with somebody like Danny Devine, who's a model and not known for being like a super heavy metal musician star or something like that. And I think, ultimately all kinds of judgments people will try to pass on these kind of things. But, we're very happy and proud that we did it. And we don't really care, about what people might think about it. And especially, I think that there's, even though they try to hide it, but I think the metal scene, there's still a lot of sexism and stuff like that. And I think the idea of working with a woman who is not specifically a musician in a band, but who is a model, a lot of people don't like it simply because, so there was definitely a little bit of that, I think, in terms of the people who didn't like it. I definitely felt like that there was some stuff that was a bit directed at Danny, from obviously not her fans, but like random people that discovered the song and thought it was a bit, but overall, it was a good reaction, and I think a lot of people liked it, and I think that it was a fun thing, and I think most people did get it and enjoyed it. So happy with that.
Absolutely. Prince of Darkness saying, "What do you think? Metalheads are opinionated," with a laughing emoji. Yeah, just a little bit.
Are
but,
they?
That's exactly the emote that he put. It's one of those. But he also added, "Playing it is the job of a tribute band. Playing it exactly the same is a job of a tribute band. Exactly. Covering it, you would have to add your own touch, obviously, and change it up. So I think that adds a lot to it." But I actually just wanted to touch a little bit on that, because we always talk about it on this show. I love debunking the metalhead elitism myth kind of thing. We'll start to wind down with a couple of more questions. But have you guys faced that in Neonfly? Because there is this kind of blockade, this gatekeeper kind of thing that happens with metal around the world. Yeah. It's being watered down eventually and slowly. But have you guys faced any of that kind of stuff being in Neonfly?
Yeah, absolutely. And so much so that I actually wrote 2 songs about it. So one of them being The Enemy from our first album, and the second one being Another Eden from the latest album. So yeah, definitely. I think that with Neonfly, I think we've always stood out, and we never 100% fitted into everything. We started, in a way, I think we've had a very unique sort of career, in the sense that we started being quite sort of traditional metal, melodic metal, power metal, even hard rock, AOR. Our first album definitely had a lot of those influences. But I always was listening to different things, so I always brought in a few different flavors. And I think that while our first two albums were definitely predominantly power metal or melodic metal. I think that all the different flavors that I brought in from, whatever I was listening to, whether it's, modern pop or old school pop or funk or whatever, classical music. Well, classical music, it does blend in pretty well with power metal anyway, but a lot of other stuff, even more modern metal, because obviously, people who like classic metal and traditional metal don't necessarily like a lot of modern stuff. But I listen to a lot of things, and those flavors that I brought in the first two albums, I think they were enough to sort of disorient traditional metal fans and stuff. And I think that while I, at the time, thought I was putting out a power metal album, I found that most of the power metal community it felt odd about us. They sort of felt like, we didn't really fit in and never really accepted us. So that also prompted me to sort of want to change things for the next album, for the Future Tonight, and really step away from all that and break away with any kind of genre and say, you know what, if you didn't think we were power metal before, well, we were definitely not going to be power metal now. So, So in a way, it was like saying, well, we're going to do our own thing, and I don't care if you like it or not, basically. But so with this album, we worked really, really hard to sort of break away with any kind of specific niche or to be pigeonholed or anything like that, and to just say, basically, this is what we are. This is an album that really defines our sound, and this is who we are, because we don't want people to sort of listen to Neonfly because we remind them of someone else. We want people to listen to Neonfly because of Neonfly, and that's it. We don't want to be second best to anyone, basically. So essentially, we sort of decided to break a little bit with our past and sort of go completely our own way and create something which I hope is completely unique and different from everything else that's out there. But even in our early days, I think that we were never really accepted within the genres that we should have been accepted. So I think that the people who liked us always sort of liked us for being a bit odd and different. And I think maybe that wasn't so apparent on the first two albums, but it is much more so on the new album, and it's definitely going to keep going in that direction. So,
but isn't that the most metal and punk rock thing you can do? Because we always talk about it on the show, and people, if you've heard me say this before, I apologize for repeating myself, but the whole thing started as a big middle finger to conforming, to fitting in this box. And then somewhere along the line, we turned around and went, if you're not exactly the way this should sound, you're not cool enough to be in this box. And anyone that's outside of this, it started being different. Like, if you're different within the box, isn't that the whole point?
That's exactly what I've always said. And it is incredible to me that people in metal, some people in metal have grown out to be so conservative, in the sense that literally, if you don't sound like some band that existed 40 years ago now, they just want to hear one type of sound, and that's it. And it's like, well, what's the point? I mean, all the big bands from yesterday, Motorhead, Iron Maiden, well, you name it, Judas Priest, they didn't, when they came out, they were doing something completely new and completely different. They didn't become who they are today by trying to emulate bands from the 50s. They didn't try to sound like Elvis or the Beatles or whoever. They came out and did their own thing, and that's why they became who they are today. Now, equally today, you've got so many bands that are doing that and that are being very successful, but traditional metal purists, complain about the fact that nobody's doing that. It's like, well, they are, but you just don't like them because they are different, and because you actually have turned out to be the same person that you probably hated when you were young, who criticized the bands that you like, and now 40 years later you only listen to that and you think that's the only thing that's good. I mean, I remember when Lemmy died, and people were like, oh, there's never going to be another Motorhead, there's never, who's going to be, and it's like, I love Motorhead, but it's at the end of the day, of course there's never going to be another Motorhead, because Motorhead was Motorhead, and if you want to listen to Motorhead, you listen to Motorhead. You don't try to find a band that's going to play exactly like Motorhead just to satisfy you. You know, I mean, you know, the good thing about Motorhead is that they were themselves, and they are the legends they are because of what they created, and not because they tried to be the next whatever was before them. You know, and it's just ridiculous to me that there can be such conservative attitudes in metal today, where people think that they can dictate what you have the right to do with metal and what you don't have the right to do, and it's like there's so much so many people that are literally just expecting you, and I think it's very hypocritical as well, because, you know, when say, you know, fans of you know, the sort of classic metal and stuff like that, not all of them, but some fans of classic metal, sort of they only want to listen to that, and they love the big bands, you know, that define the genre and stuff, and they're always going to be, and it's great, you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with listening to those bands. I listen to those bands too, I love them, but then they want every other band to be like that, and but the hypocrisy comes in the fact that basically they'll never think of those bands as much as they think of the big ones. So they just want other bands to sound like that so they can feel comfortable with their existence, but not so they can actually support them or care about them. So essentially, you know, you'll never replace Halloween in their hearts or any kind of band like that. You know, they just want you to play like that, or to sort of play in that genre so they can say, oh yeah, this genre is alive and well and stuff like that. But they're never going to consider you in the same way that they consider Halloween or Gamma Ray or Stratovarius or whatever. So I think it's very hypocritical, basically, that they want bands to be stuck in a genre to basically not even give them any attention. So it's like, what kind of artistic satisfaction can you get from being second best to someone else all your life? You know, it makes no sense to me. So I think that
I completely agree with you, but I just want to cut you off for a second. And now I just want to say that all these crazy motherfuckers, you guys know exactly what we're talking about, because this tribe, this community, we play a bunch of different. We do with the podcast on Wednesdays, but Mondays we do this thing called Theme Stream, and on Saturdays I either perform some of my band's music, or we do another, like, you know, opening links in the chat, and people show each other music, and we thrive on the idea of showing someone something that they originally thought they didn't like, and getting a reaction out of them. Like, you know, we had we had the new wave British heavy metal, for example, and just people are like, I don't like Iron Maiden. It's like, all right, let's listen to all these other things that you don't like or you do like, and people end up walking away with different ideas. So I just want to say to everybody, all of you guys, I see everybody here. I fucking love you. Yeah, we're outside of the box. We're outside of the box here, and this because that is something that exists, and I'm as frustrated as you are about it. When I saw you get a little more passionate when it came to this subject, because not only does this exist in the Middle East, it's a tiny scene, and they segregate in that sense. And I was just like, listen, dude, we don't have the time or the people to argue about, is this melodic death metal or just death metal? Like, it doesn't work for us.
You know, I mean, do you like it or not? That's what matters.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
Exactly. Dude, well, I thank you so much for your time. First of all, I know a 2-hour conversation is a fucking hefty request for anyone.
Right? It felt natural. So.
Awesome. I'm glad you had the time. We always end the show with the same question, and we like to do. Oh, Rexter, thank you so much for the 100 biddies, my friend. We would like to end the show with the same question every time, and you can interpret it in any way you want, and just answer it any way you want. I like to make it awkward. You can't see this. Wait, let me change it so you can see the awkwardness. There we go. All right. We're gonna make it awkward. Thank you, Rexter, for another 100 biddies. You're an absolute badass. Thank you. Let's kill the background music a little bit. You guys, Frederick, I just want to ask you, if you had a time machine and you were able to go back in time to young Frederick, just before finding that Iron Maiden album, just before picking up the guitar, before playing your first show as a high school band, you had a time machine and you went back and met young Frederick. What would you say?
I would. That's a good question. What would I say? I would say, don't spend so much time worrying about, the future and or what you're gonna do. Like in Twisted Sister, what are you gonna do with your life? It all has a way of showing the path that you're supposed to take, and even bad decisions sometimes are made for a reason, and turned out something good when you least expect it.
In short, don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah,
basically,
that's right. Yeah,
don't sweat the small stuff. And with those wise words, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Everybody that's been here for the 2-hour duration, everybody that's crept in and out, and everybody that's listening to this on Spotify after the fact or watching it on YouTube. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. Yeah, man, it's been a hell of a conversation, and I think when things open up and we get rolling again, I know our good friends at Guilty Gorilla, !GG in the chat, you guys at guiltygorilla.com. We might be trying to swing you guys over to the Middle East at some point, and maybe play a show in Dubai. Hell yeah.
We'd love that. Absolutely. Yeah, we've never been there as a tourist or as a musician. So in both ways, it would be very, very exciting. So definitely we'll be there, if you want us there. Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. And chat, the rules. You guys have to stick around because we're going to Uncle Julian's house for a raid after this. Julian's gonna be playing all kinds of music. He's gonna be showing you some more Neonfly. He's gonna be showing you a whole bunch of different things that not only the things that he works with, but or bands that he works with, but things within that realm, that genre, that wide spectrum that we were talking about. So do stick around for the raid. And Frederick, it's a tradition around here that to officially end the episode, we have the guest say the words "hit the outro." And that's when everything happens. So whenever you're ready, in your own way, however you want to speak to the listeners before you say that, the floor is all yours. All right. Well, hope you all enjoyed these 2 hours. I had a lot of fun. Keep listening to metal, keep rocking, and I forgot what I had to say. That's the perfect one. It was hit the outro. Hit the outro.